Implementing forest biomass harvesting and retention guidelines. The demand for renewable energy is increasing, and energy providers are turning their attention to forest biomass as a way to meet this demand. A vibrant biomass heating market has emerged in some parts of the U.S. and is saving energy dollars for schools, hospitals, and a range of municipal and commercial buildings. On a larger scale, electric power companies in the US and Europe are increasingly required to produce some part of their electricity from renewable sources, and many are turning to forest biomass as a renewable fuel to help them hit their targets. As the use of our forests for renewable energy accelerates, public concern also accelerates over the health and future of forests. Individuals and environmental organizations look for assurances that increased harvesting will not damage the ecological value of forests. This presentation will help pellet mills and energy companies understand how biomass harvesting and retention guidelines can help them ensure the sustainability of their supply chain. European power companies are calling for their US suppliers to document the environmental sustainability of their supply. Voluntary supply chain certification programs have even emerged in Europe, and pellet producers in the US are beginning to certify themselves through these programs. Moreover, long-standing forest certification programs such as the Forest Stewardship Council, Sustainable Forestry Initiative, and the American Tree Farm System are also being used. In particular, chain of custody certification is being used by pellet mills to trace material from source forest to the point of energy consumption. Others are seeking to make percentage claims to highlight how much certified content is being used to produce energy. Ultimately, meeting the expectations of the public and European buyers comes down to sustainable forestry practices in the woods. This is where biomass harvesting and retention guidelines come into play. Biomass guidelines augment existing best management practices or BMPs that require or encourage appropriate stewardship. Programs promoting and encouraging sustainable forestry recognize that logging contractors operate under narrow profit margins, working with possibly hundreds of landowners in varying forest types and conditions. Flexibility for foresters and loggers is needed to deal with this diversity of conditions, and biomass guidelines were designed and developed to help meet these challenges. Forest Guild regional guidelines are based on the best available science and were developed by foresters for foresters. The guidelines include targets for major issues such as soil nutrient protection and retention of forest structure for wildlife habitat. Guidelines are designed to be economical and practically implemented while offering assurances to the public that they are scientifically valid. Energy producers can use the guidelines in a variety of ways, including in the development of procurement programs that accommodate public concern. Certification programs can use guidelines to expand the focus of their logger training programs, and the retention targets and guidelines offer certification auditors another benchmark against which to evaluate sustainable forestry practices. When facilities can't access their supply of biomass from certified lands, the guidelines can help fill in this gap. Guidelines can also be integrated into a procurement system designed and tailored to meet the specific needs of a particular energy facility. Since the guidelines are regional, they can also reduce administrative overhead for procurement systems that operate across state boundaries. Moreover, they can be integrated with other sustainability requirements. An important takeaway from this presentation is that there are multiple options for weaving biomass guidelines into facility procurement systems. If so inclined, facilities could design a procurement system that starts with reasonable deliverables and aims for annual improvements in the use of biomass guidelines. In such a system, biomass harvest and retention guidelines might be adopted into an increasing number of harvests each year. Other options include logger training in how to use the guidelines, or even approaches that monitor the use of the guidelines amongst the loggers, while providing incentives to high performers. With an ever-increasing need to demonstrate responsible business practices, biomass guidelines and careful sourcing programs can help the energy industry demonstrate its commitment to renewable and sustainable energy.